Shout out to Antonio Smith for sending me this story. And this story is coming out of Queens, New York, where you have the NYPD acting like the thugs and criminals and animals that Mike O'Meara, that loudmouth from a couple weeks ago, claims that he is tired of hearing. They're still acting like. So in this picture, you can see there are, was it 1, 2, 3, it looks like 4 NYPD terrorists that are holding down one black man in a chokehold. Looks very familiar to the same type of chokehold that's supposed to be banned, the same kind of chokehold that Eric Garner ended up losing his life in a few years ago to Daniel Pantaleo. Well, we're back here yet again with that same department that Michael O'Meara claims that everybody hates so much and has a very good reason to have a disdain toward. Now, I actually saw this footage. Charged with anything, they don't lose any livelihood whatsoever. They just get tossed around and sent to another location, much like the cop that did this to this man in this image right here. Because they not only did not fire this this terrorist, but they only suspended him. And based on what I've read so far, I'm going to read it in its entirety. They have not even identified who they suspended. I mean, and this is not just the NYPD thing. This is an across the board thing. But NYPD is up there for known because they're known and have a history of dealing with their black residents way differently than everybody else. You can throw the Hispanics in there depending on the circumstance because they like to lump us in there together. But for the most part, we are their number one target. Now, fortunately, this guy that they put in the chokehold did not die because it was people there. Of course, they were recording it. And I think in the recording, people were saying he's going in and out. They're losing him or something like that. So they're telling him that this guy is not breathing. You can tell when someone's not breathing because their body just kind of lays still and it doesn't move. But we was about to have another Eric Garner on our hands. But they said that he is they took him to the hospital and he's currently in good condition. I can tell you who should not be in good condition, but y'all already can figure that out. But let me go ahead and read the article. An NYPD terrorist was suspended on Sunday just hours after he was caught on cell phone footage appearing to put a suspect in an illegal chokehold during an arrest in Queens. Now 45 just signed some bill. And I just refer to it as some bill because that's all it is. It should be called some bullshit. But he signed some bill into law that makes it illegal to do chokeholds unless the terrorist is in fear for their life. How much you want to bet that if this terrorist walks away from here, he's going to say, I was in fear for my life? That's why I said, why even sign that thing into a bill? Because they all use that I fear for my life line anyway. That's a get out of jail free card. The terrorist was one of 4 involved in the arrest of a black man Sunday morning on the Rockaway Boulevard, according to a video of the incident circulating on social media. The encounter took place days after the New York City Council made it a criminal offense for cops to use chokeholds. Now, here's the thing. The chokehold thing was already illegal. That's the part that blows me up about this whole situation. The chokehold, the illegal chokehold, was already on the books even before what happened to Eric Garner. That was considered an illegal chokehold then. It was illegal since, I believe, since the 90s. But it's like they don't even abide by their own policy. So it was apparently illegal back then when Eric Garner happened, and it was still then, but now they have to put it on again. So it's like, who keeps putting it in and keep taking it away, or unless it's there and they keep rearranging it whenever they feel like it. That's where these lawmakers and these officials, they ain't shit, along with their police departments. After a swift investigation by the Internal Affairs, there's that word again, Internal Affairs. Internal, I should say. Terrorist involved in a disturbing apparent chokehold incident in Queens has been suspended without pay. Oh, goody. Suspended does not equal fired or terminated. I mean, granted, you took away his pay, but that's just temporary. He can always come back and regain his pay. See, they give these little trinkets and expect us to be like, oh my God, that is so profound. That is so wonderful. No, no, no. That's not how it goes. What we want is not only a termination, but we want to make sure that they're actually fired and they're not moved to another department. We want to make sure that their pension got affected. We want to make sure that they are charged properly and convicted and sentenced for their crime. If they could actually do that, you know what the turnaround rate could be for a lot of these police departments and for the trust of the public to the police if they were actually held accountable for their actions, but they're not, because they're basically a legalized, organized gang. And the people who run these departments are basically the mob boss. They're like the Don Corleone of this whole situation, of this whole mob family. That's basically what it is and how it operates. After all, they don't call it the Fraternal Order of the Police. When I first heard of FOP, I said, that sounds like a gang. And then when you see how they operate, these are the same people that say, if you see something, say something, but these are the same people that don't even abide by it. If you see something and you say something with them, they're going to deal with you accordingly. And they have. While a full investigation is still underway, there is no question in my mind that this immediate action is necessary. We are committed to transparency, and the reason why they make an immediate action is because they don't want what happened in Minneapolis to happen in New York. But see, they keep dropping the ball. They keep doing these little how can I put it? These little whatevers. I can't think of the word. It's a certain word that I'm looking for. But it's these little small things, these small little infractions, however you want to put it, and expect us to just simply be okay. They do enough to pacify the people from going crazy or going and popping off like they did in Minneapolis. But truth be told, if stories like this don't get buried, because they're going to bury, I have a feeling they're going to bury this story. If this story was not to get buried or to get buried or not get buried, some stuff probably would happen. See, they don't want, not only do they not want what happened in Minneapolis to happen there, but they also don't want what happened in Atlanta after what happened with Rayshard Brooks to occur either. But see, the thing is, they need to change the culture of the police, but they're not going to do that. They're not going to bring themselves to do that. They are hiring gang members, and as far as I'm concerned, ex-cons to be cops. When you look at how the policing goes for other places around the world compared to here, it's way different. Like in some places, you actually have to have a master's degree to be a cop. You have to have a certain level of education and certain years of schooling to become a cop. Here, you just have to have a high school diploma, go to the academy for a few months. With their some trainings overseas, you have to go to an academy for like 2 years and have certain degrees to get into, even before putting on the uniform, let alone carrying a gun. Here, high school diploma, a few months of training, and their training, based on the training, I swear they must all go to the same academy no matter what department they go to, because they all operate the same exact reckless way. Video circulating on social media earlier on Sunday showed 4 terrorists pressing a man in a D'Angelo Russell Nets jersey to the ground on the boardwalk in Far Rockaway. And I am familiar with Far Rockaway because I do have family out there. The 29-second clip shows one of the cops with his arms around the man's neck as the 3 other officers attempt to handcuff him. And see, they have to do this because they have to give this illusion that black people, especially black men, are these superhumans that can just fight off anything. And see, they probably took one look at that Rayshard Brooks video and how he was able to fight off those 2 terrorists while being intoxicated and get their taser off of them. It was like, oh no, we gonna need backup. See, they have internalized the boogeyman thing, the big black boogeyman thing. And the thing is, I looked at the frame of this guy. This guy is like, I'm not gonna say he's frail, but it's not like he's Wesley Snipes in Blade either. He's not a big buff guy, but the fact that they have internalized that black men are the big black boogeyman, that's how they see all of us, as if we are the Incredible Hulk about to come barreling down the street and knock them over like we're bowling balls and they're the pins. I mean, after all, they said Tamir Rice was an 18-year-old male, even though you can clearly look at him and tell he is not even 18 or wasn't 18, and that he definitely wasn't a grown man. But see, they had to paint that picture of him because that was one of the first things they said. Oh, we thought he was 18. Excuse me? But see, they always even age our boys to be older than what we are, than what they are. Yo, stop choking him, bro. Someone off screen yells as the man on the ground goes limp. Another person can be heard saying, look, he's out. Look, officer, he's out, as one of the cops, terrorists, tells him to back off. But the terrorist only lets go of the man's neck after one of his fellow officers taps him on the back. The footage shows. Excuse me. Notice it said he only did that after his partner told him to let up. Not when the crowd told him to get up. When his partner told him to get up. Imagine had his partner not said anything. This man probably would have been dead. The NYPD swiftly released more than 30 minutes of body camera footage from the incident showing the man and two others getting angry with the terrorists over an earlier encounter not seen in the video. Police sources said terrorists were flagged down on the boardwalk around 8:45 a.m. by people who said a man had been throwing objects at them and harassing them. The man picked up a can from a garbage and threw it at the terrorists when they approached him, the source said. Now see that what they're doing is they're framing it to justify what they did. In the body cam footage, the man is seen pulling something out of a trash can and then asking twice if the cops or terrorists are scared before the officer wearing the camera rushed him. The man was taken to a hospital to be treated for a laceration on his head, the source said, denying that the man was unconscious and adding that he had been able to walk to the car. His attorney, Lori Zeno, told the New York Times that her client did lose consciousness during the arrest. Zeno couldn't immediately be reached for Sunday night. He was on such a hard chokehold that he couldn't speak to say he couldn't breathe. Community advocate Anthony Beckford, who was running for the 45th New York City Council seat in 2021, shared the clip on Twitter. The terrorist performed an illegal modern-day lynching chokehold on a black man until he was unconscious. I demand his immediate firing and criminal charges for breaking the city and state ban. Hashtag defund the police. At least a dozen people protested the arrest in front of the 100th precinct on Sunday afternoon, carrying BLM signs. The New York City Council on Thursday passed legislation that it made a criminal offense for terrorists to use chokeholds. The state legislature also passed their own ban on chokeholds that result in serious injury or death. And as you can see, even though they put that stuff on the books, they're still going to continue to do that because, like I said, these chokeholds were already illegal. They already were. They were outlawed since the 90s, but they still allowed them to continue to do it. And this is exactly why, when I said earlier, they are calling for the defunding of the police. Of the terrorists. And we got to get into the habit of calling them that, because if they were actual police, they wouldn't act the way that they do. So you got to call them by a proper name, call them terrorists, because this is nothing more than, in my opinion, domestic terrorism. This is what domestic terrorists do. They go around and they mess with people that they feel that they can get away with messing with, and they either do bodily harm or they literally go for the jugular and go for death. And it's crazy because when I see this, it also reminds me of the end of Do the Right Thing when Radio Raheem was choked to death by that cop, which led to them rioting right there in the street and destroying Sal's pizza parlor and a bunch of other stuff. That's what it reminds me of. And that movie came out in 1989, the year I was born, as a matter of fact. Very interesting considering that movie came out 31 years ago, and here we are 31 years later, and the same stuff is still being done to black men by those terrorists to this day. Today. Like I said, they do not care. These are rebels. These are rogues. These are terrorists. Do not refer to them as cops. Do not refer to them as officers. Do not refer to them as police. Now I'm curious. I bet you the coonstress might see this, and she probably gonna try to start up a whole nother little campaign if something happens to this guy, and she gonna throw her little coonstress cape on with her dunce cap, and she gonna try to create a whole nother little fun for this person. Because I don't know if y'all know, but she also created one for that Rayshard, the one who killed Rayshard Brooks. She created one for them, and I think she ended up raising more money for this person opposed to that racist bar owner down south somewhere. And that person capped out at $205,000, and I think she raised more for the cop who killed Rayshard Brooks. So I wouldn't be surprised if she does the same thing here if this terrorist ends up getting fired.